Last night, India Today put out the findings of the Lokniti-CSDS Opinion Poll for Bihar. This poll projected that while the NDA has an edge, the cause of concern is that Nitish Kumar's popularity is dipping. Interestingly, the mood on the ground suggests that Bihar voters are quite satisfied with the performance of the Modi government at the centre. Starting the 23rd of October, the Prime Minister will begin his Bihar Blitz, addressing 12 rallies over 12 days. So will it now be once again upon Prime Minister Modi to do the heavy lifting for the NDA? Is Nitish Kumar Modi-Bharose? Take a look at this report.
An extraordinary election amidst a raging pandemic and the worst ever economic slowdown. Strong headwinds for Nitish Kumar seeking a straight fourth term. A pre-poll survey by Lokniti-CSDS suggests more voters don't want to see him back as Chief Minister than those who do. The poll shows young, crowd-pulling opposition leader Tejashwi Yadav catching up fast with the Chief Minister on popularity charts. There are many challenges besides anti-incumbent sentiments. The Chief Minister is facing opposition from within the NDA he's part of at the centre.
नीतीश जी दहाई का भी आंकड़ा पार कर लें तो बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि होगी। इतना प्रेडिक्ट तो जरूर कर सकता हूं कि मौजूदा मुख्यमंत्री 10 नवंबर के बाद दोबारा कभी प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री नहीं बनेंगे।
But BJP and JDU are putting up a strong front together.
इस बिहार में भारतीय जनता पार्टी और जनता दल की यह जोड़ी जो है, यह कैसी जोड़ी है? जैसे क्रिकेट में सचिन और सहवाग की ओपनिंग जोड़ी थी, वैसे ही यहां बिहार की राजनीति में भारतीय जनता पार्टी और जनता दल यू की जोड़ी है।
तुम वोट हमसे लिए हो, बचोट हमको दिए हो, औनी पौनी बातें चौके खोट मन में लिए हुई का किए हो भैया। दिन भर की मेहनत करके हम थके चूर बा।
Enough ammunition for the opposition alliance to attack the Chief Minister in the election.
Seeking a fourth term on the seat of the Chief Minister of Bihar, Nitish Kumar is possibly facing his weakest election. His popularity waning, cracks appearing in his own coalition and relentless attacks from the opposition. The Chief Minister is also marred with the woes of the migrant labourers and the callous attitude and the handling of the government during the corona pandemic. Now all eyes would be on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Nitish Kumar would be hoping that Modi's charisma, which is intact in Bihar, is possibly going to be enough to take the Gathbandhan through the Chief Minister's chair.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi still shines bright in Bihar, no matter the surge in the coronavirus caseload and shuttered businesses. The Modi government's popularity among Bihar voters is far higher than the popularity of Nitish Kumar in the state. The Prime Minister is scheduled to hold 12 rallies in Bihar for NDA candidates. Starting October 23rd to November 3rd, Prime Minister Modi's events are spread across Bihar. The ball's now in the voters' court. NDA's first electoral trial during the pandemic, apparently on the back of the Modi magic. With Ankit Tyagi in Patna, Bureau Report, India Today.
You know, one of the developments that spiced up the Bihar elections is the fact that Chirag, Paswan and the Lok Janshakti Party are fighting outside the umbrella of the NDA. You had Chirag, soon after his father's death, very dramatically declare that he was Modi's Hanuman, that if you tore his chest apart, you'd see the Prime Minister's image over there. But you had the BJP gun after Chirag Paswan saying he's completely out of line, we're not in cahoots with him, and that there is no truck between the BJP and the LJP. So what does the young Paswan have to say about the BJP gunning for him so publicly. Ankit Tyagi caught up with Chirag Paswan. Here is an excerpt from this conversation.
Chirag, you were talking about how difficult it has been to start this campaign for the first time without your father.
Yes, of course. It's been difficult and I definitely miss him a lot. This is for the first time ever in my life. I'm out like this without my father. And just by the virtue that I used to have his back, things were mentally very easy for me. Psychologically, it used to help me a lot. But having said that, this was his dream. He wanted that Bihar first, Bihari first should take over the entire campaign. And this is a change that we are offering to the people of my state. And I hope and I'm very confident the kind of acceptance that Bihar first, Bihari first is getting, the kind of support this campaign is getting. I'm very confident that this would be the last time our current Chief Minister will be the Chief Minister. Henceforth, there will be the change in the Bihar.
दिक्कत ये है कि बीजेपी के नेता भी ये मानने को तैयार नहीं है. वो बीजेपी के नेता जेडीयू में साथ में खड़े होकर बोलते हैं आपको बार-बार. कुछ लोग कहते हैं आप वोट कटवा हैं, कुछ कहते हैं कि आप भ्रम फैला रहे हैं वोटर्स के बीच में. यू आर वर्किंग अगेंस्ट द एनडीए और आप भ्रम फैलाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं इस पूरे चुनाव में.
Well, I am with the Prime Minister. प्रधानमंत्री जी की जो विकास की सोच है, मैं उसके साथ मैं जुड़ा हुआ हूँ. और जो लोग मुझे लेकर भ्रम फैलाते हैं या जो लोग ऐसी बातें कह रहे हैं, वो किसके विचारों को दे रहे हैं मैं वो भी समझ रहा हूँ. भले आवाज इनकी हो, they might be voicing, but the thoughts behind their voice comes from our Chief Minister. So that is also very clear. Having said that, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't bother me. They can say whatever that they want to say. At the end of the day, the results will tell कि कौन सही था, कौन गलत था.
Why don't you think then the Prime Minister is reining his party leaders, those who have been calling you names, some even going to the extent of saying that you are trying to fight this on the sympathy of your father's demise?
जो लोग ये बोलते हैं कि मैं अपने पिताजी की मौत पर राजनीति कर रहा हूँ, शर्म आनी चाहिए उन लोगों को. मतलब अभी मेरे पिताजी को गए हुए 12-13 दिन नहीं हुए, कल उनकी 13वीं थी. और आज अगर आज इस तरीके से ये लोग शब्दों का प्रयोग करेंगे, थोड़ी तो संवेदना रखिए. आज मेरे पिताजी का निधन हुआ है, एक ऐसे व्यक्ति का जो आज से कुछ दिन पहले आप ही के मंत्रिमंडल में आपके सहयोगी थे, और उनके बेटे के बारे में आप इस तरीके से कह रहे हैं कि वो उनकी मौत के ऊपर राजनीति करेंगे. मुझे लगता है जनता सब देख रही है, सुन रही है. अपने आप समय आने पर जवाब दिया जाएगा.
कुछ भी हो जाए, नंबर्स कितने भी आए, द चीफ मिनिस्टर इज गोइंग टू बी नीतीश कुमार. सुशील मोदी बार-बार यही बात दोहराई, बाकी नेता भी यही बात कह रहे हैं. आप जब ये कहते हैं तो बीजेपी आपका साथ लेने को तैयार नहीं है और आप जबरदस्ती उनको साथ देने को घूम रहे हैं.
हाँ, तो उनको बोले कि ये भी अनाउंस कर दें कि कल को भाजपा और जदयू मिला के अगर उनके आंकड़े पूरे नहीं हुए तो वो मेरा समर्थन नहीं लेंगे. कर दें अनाउंस कि उनको लोक जनशक्ति पार्टी के विधायकों की उनको जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी सरकार बनाने के लिए अगर संख्या कम हुई, क्योंकि संख्या तो डेफिनेटली कम हो रही है. नीतीश जी दहाई का भी आंकड़ा पार कर लें तो बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि होगी.
तेजस्वी यादव ने अभी बयान दिया, उन्होंने कहा कि आपके साथ ठीक नहीं हुआ है. आपकी आज प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस थी, प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में आपने नीतीश जी पर जमकर हमला बोला, तेजस्वी पर आप कुछ खास बोले नहीं. इसी को लेकर अब लोग कहने लगे हैं कि कुछ अंडरस्टैंडिंग बैकडोर वाली चल रही है क्या?
अरे मैं क्या बोलूं, भूमिका क्या है तेजस्वी की, बताइए ना मुझे इन चुनाव में. Does Rajad or Congress relevant also in this election?
You can say with confidence, no matter what happens, come 10th November, you are not going to go. आप बीजेपी के साथ जाना चाहते हैं, but you are not going to go the गठबंधन way.
Not at all. बिल्कुल भी नहीं. और 10 तारीख को आप यही बयान मेरा मुझे सुनाइएगा अभी वापस. बिल्कुल भी नहीं. लोक जनशक्ति पार्टी ने हमेशा प्री पोल अलायंसेस किए हैं. चुनाव के बाद किसी की सरकार बनाने को उसका समर्थन कर दें, ये हम लोगों ने कभी नहीं किया. तो इस बार भी मैं क्लियर हूं कि भैया हम लोग भारतीय जनता पार्टी के साथ थे, मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी के साथ हम लोग थे, हैं और रहेंगे.
चिराग पासवान का क्या प्रेडिक्शन है इस चुनाव के लिए?
देखिए, मौसम वैज्ञानिक का ही बेटा हूं, उन्हीं के अंश उन्हीं के संस्कार हैं. इतना प्रेडिक्ट तो जरूर कर सकता हूं कि मौजूदा मुख्यमंत्री 10 नवंबर के बाद दोबारा कभी प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री नहीं बनेंगे.
So you've got Chirag Paswan saying, I'm the son of a weather scientist. That's what his father was disparagingly called. He's using that and saying, because I can see the weather, I know that Nitish Kumar will not be chief minister. And the poll is very, very interesting because it brings out the extent of the dissatisfaction with Nitish Kumar, but it also brings out quite clearly that the central government and Prime Minister Modi himself is still very popular. will it then be down to the Prime Minister having to do the heavy lifting to overcome the anti-incumbency against the NDA-led BJP government, the JDU government in Bihar? Joining us on the Newstrack, I want to welcome first the lead cephalogist for Lokniti-CSDS, Sanjay Kumar. He led the team that brought the poll together. We've got Rahul Verma from the Center for Policy Research. For political perspective, we're joined on this broadcast by Abhishek Jha, spokesperson of the Janata Dal United, Gaurav Bhatia of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and Shama Mohammed from the Mahagathbandhan, spokesperson of the Congress Party. I want to go across to Sanjay Kumar first, because explain to our viewers the findings of your poll, which suggests that Nitish Kumar's popularity has dipped. In comparison with 2010 and 2015, this chief minister heads into the first phase of polling facing severe anti-incumbency. Ordinarily, if the government and the state's chief minister face this kind of incumbency, the government would be likely to lose. Despite that, your poll projects that the NDA may cross the finishing line, end up with 133 plus seats. Is that, in your view, largely because voters still have a lot of faith in the BJP and in the work being done by the central government of Prime Minister Modi? Does it then mean that Nitish Kumar is Modi-Bharose? Sanjay Kumar.
Your question also has an explanation, Rahul. You rightly said, if this kind of a negative rating any chief minister would have got in any other state, or kind of a negative rating of the state government, the government should have lost election. And if you look at one of the findings in the survey, should this government be re-elected, a lot of people say, no, this government should not be re-elected. But the only reason why still NDA remains ahead of RJD Gathbandhan and others is because they are in alliance with BJP. BJP's popularity is increasing. Nationally, if we look at, people don't remember, people don't recollect that BJP as a national party has been able to double its vote share in less than 10 years, in almost 10 years. Similarly, in Bihar also, they have expanded their base. They have expanded their base in the rural India as well, enormously among the lower OBC vote. So the reason why, in spite of Nitish Kumar getting a bad rating as the chief minister, they still remain ahead in terms of vote percentages, which is 6% lead over RJD, and in terms of seat estimate, they still remains ahead of RJD Gathbandhan. This is primarily because of their alliance with BJP. I think they would need Prime Minister Modi heavily to campaign in favor of the Gathbandhan to take the stock on the upward side, or at least not letting the stock go down.
Rahul Verma, you know, the one election that comes to my mind is what happened in Gujarat, where very clearly the sitting BJP government and the chief minister were deeply unpopular. It's the personal appeal of Prime Minister Modi that took the BJP in Gujarat across the line, and the fact that the Congress wasn't as strong on the ground organizationally as the BJP was. Is this a common development in politics over the last few years, a deeply unpopular government now once again relying on the Prime Minister, on the organizational machinery of the BJP to see the entire NDA bandwagon across the finishing line? What are you making of these numbers and the disaffection with the Nitish Kumar government and with the Chief Minister himself?
Thank you, Rahul. I think you're absolutely right about Prime Minister Narendra Modi being one of the most popular leaders in the country. His popularity is somewhat more than the popularity of his party, BJP. But I would like to add 2 points. One, I think while Nitish Kumar's popularity in comparison to past has certainly declined, his government record in the third term is not as great as what it was in first and second term. We must also keep this in mind that there is sort of a confusion among voters whether what is the role BJP is going to play post-poll. Is BJP, so what like the data we saw yesterday, what is happening that BJP voters do not want Nitish to return as a chief minister, rather they are seeing, rather they want emergence of a new leader, and perhaps from the BJP. As Sanjay ji also pointed out, BJP's graph has been rising. So you must keep this confusion among voters in mind. And this is what BJP is trying to sort of negate in past 1 week. Earlier, they were thinking that they were in a pole position, they can basically ramp through. Now there is a realization that this confusion may cost them the election. And that's why BJP leadership is making extra effort to say that even if we get more seats, Chief Minister would be Nitish Kumar. And you also must remember, that's the second point, that many of these governments, be it in Gujarat...
No, but is that a double-edged sword, Rahul? You're saying the BJP leadership is going out, emphasizing repeatedly in public that no matter who gets more seats, Nitish Kumar will be the Chief Minister. Could that be a double-edged sword? Because a lot of BJP voters, we saw 55% BJP voters want Nitish Kumar as Chief Minister. In 2010, that number used to be 90%. It's come down 35%. So 30% of BJP voters don't want Nitish Kumar as Chief Minister. If you keep saying that Nitish will be Chief Minister regardless, does that then make the BJP supporters less enthusiastic than they would have been if they thought maybe there will be a new face after the elections? Let's go vote for the BJP in an aggressive fashion.
See, politics is a two-way street. Voters say few things or convey certain messages, but voters also take cue from political parties and leaders. I think in the beginning, some leaders from the BJP and conversations in the media basically conveyed the message that BJP is playing a long game, where what they're trying to do is emerge as a single largest party by far. So the gap between BJP and JDU is going to be large, and BJP will push its own chief ministerial candidate. Now, basically, when elections are close, BJP doesn't seem like, despite the lead, they know that this confusion may cost them the extra vote or the extra seats, and the contest may be very, very close. The point which I was also making earlier, and we need to keep this in mind, many of these governments where we are saying that Prime Minister needs to do the extra push have been in power for 15 years. 15 years is a very, very long time in politics, which creates its own fatigue, which creates its own anti-incumbency.
Abhishek Jha from the Janata Dal United. Nitish Kumar, from what I know, and all those who know will attest to this, is a very proud man. You know, he believes in the effort he makes, in his connect with voters. In this poll, he finds himself in an unprecedented situation where his popularity has actually crashed. And if this was an election fought around the image and the work of Nitish Kumar, you know, his party would probably have lost, because you've got the double engine of the BJP, because you've got the Prime Minister coming in and campaigning for Nitish Kumar. That's what still gives the NDA the edge. But does that then not put Nitish Kumar, this proud provincial leader, in a disadvantage, where he doesn't go in with his chest puffed out? He goes in knowing that the tide has turned and he's no longer as popular as he once was.
You know, the most important thing is, whosoever claims that after 15 years the anti-incumbency is at a very higher level, still Nitish Kumar is the most popular face in Bihar as the chief ministerial candidate by your opinion polls. And the other thing is, yes, we are in alliance with Bharatiya Janata Party, and Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a very popular face across the nation, and he'll be campaigning for NDA and all the NDA candidates here in Bihar. But it does not mean that the popularity of Nitish Kumar is so less, or it has reduced to a level what others claim that we cannot fight the election or we cannot win the election. We are with BJP, we are with HUM, we are VIP, together we are part of NDA, and we are very sure that still Nitish Kumar is the most acceptable face in Bihar, as the development works done by him, or the women empowerment done by him is a very strong base that the voters would surely rely on him, on his face, on his leadership as the leader of NDA in Bihar, and we are surely going to win the upcoming assembly elections with 3/4 of the majority. So earlier also, if you look at the Lok Sabha elections, people used to say that JDU has got 17 seats and they are not going to win as the number of seats BJP is going to win. But our strike rate was more or less just equal to BJP. So this time also, whatever the others say, whatever the opposition say, whatever the people who are on the other side say, but still I believe And our party believes that we are going to fight on the face of Nitish Kumar, and surely we are going to give a very better performance in the upcoming elections.
You know, what does the BJP make of this, Gaurav Bhatia, where from being in a position where the BJP was the junior partner in 2010, in 2005, to now where the BJP is not just the senior partner, but they're doing most of the heavy lifting. Nitish Kumar, whether he likes it or not, in Bihar at this time is Narendra Modi-Bharose. Would there be people now and maybe later, once the counting is over, who'd say BJP would potentially have done better had it gone in all by itself? If the RJD, the Congress, the one side, JDU had fought separately, the BJP would have done, according to this poll and according to reports coming in from the ground, better than it would have done otherwise. You could have, this is an election the BJP could have won by itself. Now the Prime Minister has to carry the weight and the baggage of the JDU government and get it along the finishing line.
Okay. So Rahul, first of all, thank you for the compliment that you're praising the BJP. And we do accept that we have a very charismatic leader in Narendra Modi ji, who leads from the front. He hasn't even started campaigning, and whenever he is campaigned, he is added to the kitty of the alliance as well as the BJP. But let me make it very clear that when we talk about Bihar elections, there is no BJP and JDU and other parties. There is one alliance. That alliance unitedly is contesting the elections. And your surveys also, though we do not agree with those, but they show that the NDA government will be formed in Bihar. My second point is, even when there was criticism of the BJP, look at what was being said. It was being said that the alliance is dependent on Narendra Modi ji. So we should be proud of it. At least we have a leader. On the other side, Lalu Prasad Yadav's face is also missing from the campaign posters. That itself shows they cannot take pride in their own leaders. Congress has been reduced to a secondary party. They are not in a position to even ask for seats. They have been given measly 70 seats there. My second point is in terms of organization. We are managing the elections far better than the other alliance of the Congress and the RJD. Meetings of Nadda ji have already started. Where is the Congress president? Where is Rahul Gandhi? So it shows that yes, we have leadership, we have better micromanagement, and third, we are connecting with the people of Bihar better. And that is why we are very confident that we will end up
Now, Shama Muhammad, at some level it's a reflection on the strength, or rather the weakness of the opposition, that despite so much anti-incumbency, despite the popularity of the Chief Minister crashing, the opposition is still coming in at number 2, according to the CSDS Lokniti poll. 15 years of anti-incumbency, this level of unpopularity should ordinarily see the government going home. Rather, they are likely to still cross the finishing line because the opposition simply hasn't been able to mount a campaign which is strong enough, effective enough to bring this government down.
Rahul, give me some time, please. I've been listening to all these individuals. First and foremost, if that is the case, then have you seen the crowd where the RJD leader is right now? I mean, there's a huge number of people out there. And they're saying, BJP says that, you know, the crowd doesn't get the votes. But then why is Mr. Narendra Modi coming to campaign? He should do a virtual thing if the crowd doesn't get the vote, number one. Number two, that if they are fighting on development, I don't understand why Mr. Nadda said yesterday that the opposition is dangerous, they support Pakistan, they are anti-nationals. When you are fighting on the development plank of what you did for 15 years, you talk about what you did for the state. Number three, two individuals spoke before me, not the person from the survey, Rahul, and another person. They kept saying that, you know, the Bharatiya Janata Party will come out strong and all those things. But everybody forgets that what is NDA? What is from 2005 to now? Is except from 2013 to 2016, I think that is the only time when BJP was not with this present with JDU. The rest of the time, BJP was with JDU.
Okay.
So how can you?
So can I pause you for a moment? Can I just pause you for a moment and show our viewers the crowds that Shama Muhammad is referring to? And these are the crowds coming out for Tejashwi Yadavs. You can see them there on your screen right now Tejashwi Yadav's rallies. Now, the argument being made by Mahagathbandhan supporters is, hear me, I'm coming to you, Shama,
Please,
is that this is evidence of there being a Jan Sailab, like a people's movement against the NDA. But remember, according to several analysts and voices on the ground, these are largely the Gathbandhan's own Muslim and Yadav voters who are coming out in seats which are strongly MY seats to back the RJD. They came out earlier for Lalu, and crowds by itself means nothing. In 2015, Prime Minister Modi had rallies where more than 2 lakh people came to listen, and the BJP ended up with 55 seats. So crowds per se and the enthusiasm of crowds in areas which are your stronghold, Shama Mohammed, don't by themselves mean that, you know, this election is swinging your way.
No, so that's what I'm trying to say, is that then Mr. Modi should not come and campaign. If he doesn't believe in the crowds, why is he coming? Let him stay back, let him do a virtual campaign. That's what he should do. And the BJP spokesperson, the charismatic leader came in 2015 too. What happened then? Where did they vote? They voted for the Mahagathbandhan at that point of time. Now, Rahul, I want to give you some statistics. They keep talking about development and all those things. The CMIE says there is 46.6% of unemployment in April 2020. The National Sample Survey 2017 to 18 says 87% of Biharis did not have a salaried job. The 2004 to 2005 per capita average income was 26.4% in 2004 to 2005. Now, 2018 to 19, and this is again a national sample survey, is 23.4%. So why is it going down, all these? The crime, let me tell you about the crimes against women.
No, one second. You're going off on a tangent. 1 second. I want to stay focused on the issue that you raised, and I want to put that question to Sanjay Kumar, which is what Sanjay Kumar, a lot of Gathbandhan supporters are saying. Forget the CSDS Lokniti poll. Tejashwi ki rally mein bheed dekho, josh dekho. So they say that because you've got so many people coming out and they're all charged up, this is proof that the tide is turning. Do you buy that argument, or do you think that this is not unusual? You're going into areas which are dominated by your vote bank, which is the Muslims and the Yadavs, unless they can show which new community or caste is switching en masse to the Gathbandhan and moving from the NDA to the Gathbandhan fold. You know, the crowds need not translate into a big victory for the Gathbandhan on counting day. Sanjay Kumar.
So both the argument which the data offers and the supporters of RJD or the visuals which we have shown goes in one direction, Rahul. The visuals show that wherever Tejashwi Yadav is campaigning, there is a large crowd. And the evidence which is coming out from the survey is that Tejashwi's own ranking as a popular leader has gone up. He is very close to Nitish Kumar. So the reason why his ratings are going up now, which is at 27%, it is only because he's pulling crowds in wherever he's going to, he's giving his bhashan. So that is an evidence. So I don't deny that he's pulling crowds, people are coming to hear him, but still, if you look at the findings from the survey, there still remains a gap. Nitish Kumar still remains popular, but not much ahead of Tejashwi Yadav. So I'm not saying that the images are false; those images are correct images, and that is why Tejashwi Yadav's popularity is going up. So
Gaurav Bhatia, do these images of mass support at Tejashwi's rallies concern the Bharatiya Janata Party? That you've got enthusiasm, you've got large numbers. He's still behind Nitish Kumar. He still trails Prime Minister Modi by far. But this young 30-year-old boy is drawing huge crowds.
Rahul, you know what the people of Bihar are saying? People of Bihar are saying that why should we vote for the lantern when we have the LED lights in our houses? And that is the story of the Bihar election. My friend from the Congress had said that why don't the BJP talk about the development? I can give you numbers. 1,25,000 crore package was announced by Narendra Modi ji, and more than that has been spent in Bihar. And I have the numbers. But I want to make a very important point. The point is that Congress and RJD in Bihar actually are symbolic of corruption, of dynastic rule. And Nitish Kumar ji, as leader in Bihar for the NDA, actually is symbolic of development. And when they say that why are you raising issues that pertain to national security, I would say these two are not mutually exclusive. Rather, it is our inherent conviction that we have to raise the issue of nationalism in every election, be it the Lok Sabha or the state, because it concerns the citizens of the country. And that is why I question, why is it that a person who said that Jinnah is an idol for Indian Muslims have been given a ticket by the Congress? The Congress spokesperson spoke about the RJD because there is nothing in the Congress to speak about.
Okay.
That itself reflects
Rahul Verma, what do you make of the crowds at Tejashwi's rallies? It's a big talking point in the battlefield in Bihar, and there are arguments to be made both ways. One argument that these are your voters, of course they'll come out. The other argument is, but look at the support, look at the numbers, look at the enthusiasm. It shows that the election is turning and this vote could go beyond caste. Which argument are you more inclined to buy? Rahul Verma.
Rallies generally draw, in normal circumstances, rallies generally draw your own voters, your own supporters. Rallies don't bring, in general, common people because it's a costly exercise, right? People are basically giving your day, going there and attending. But I think, like, let me make connect with Sanjayji's point. See, Nitish Kumar is certainly down. There is a decline in his popularity. But Tejashwi's popularity has not gone up. If you look at your own data, Tejashwi's chief ministerial rating remains same what Lalu Prasad Yadav family's rating was a couple of years ago. So despite Nitish going down, that is not a gain for Tejashwi.
No, but can I counter by saying that Tejashwi has been able to don the mantle? Many thought that he simply doesn't have what it takes. But to the extent, and for what it's worth, those who were Gathbandhan supporters, those who were the RJD's vote bank, have passed the lantern from Lalu Yadav to Tejashwi Yadav, and Tejashwi has been accepted, which is why he's at 27 and Nitish Kumar is at 31.
Yeah, absolutely. See, Lalu Prasad Yadav has been one of the most charismatic leaders across North India. And in a way, what is happening that in this election, that mantle has been fully passed to Tejashwi Yadav. Can he sort of like walk with that mantle and bring additional votes to his party? At the moment, that remains unclear. And I think one thing which we have not been talking about in this election, given it's happening under the pandemic circumstances, what becomes very, very crucial is the turnout. Turnout of your own, like in general, and whether parties can bring their own voters to the polling. And that's why it becomes very, very crucial for what we were talking about, the split and confusion between the BJP and JDU ranks. BJP knows that despite Nitish going down, the double engine you were talking about, despite Nitish's declining popularity, BJP cannot win Bihar election. They need the face of Nitish Kumar, but BJP must ensure that their voters come out. And
okay, Shama Mohammed, since you have your hand up, I give you 30 seconds to make a quick final comment. There's a very interesting story I want to play out for our viewers before I take a break. Quickly.
Yeah, so he talked about the package which he spoke about. Sushil Modi was asked about it, and he says, you know what, I don't know how much the centre spent. If he's in the state government and he's the deputy CM and he's from the Bharatiya Janata Party, why doesn't he know what is the amount the state government spent, the central government? And number two, he spoke about LED. Yes, I'll tell you what they did. When the migrant labourers were walking back, paying 3,000 to 5,000 rupees, they were spending, the Bharatiya Janata Party, on LED TVs worth more than 10 lakhs at that point of time to do campaigning. That is what you all did, and that is what you are doing. So you don't care about people, and they got...
Since the charges are against Gaurav Gawati, I give you 20 seconds, Gaurav, to make a quick counter.
But you know what? They're nervous right now, and that's why they're bringing in Pakistan, because you know you're going to lose. And when you're bringing about nationalism, Gaurav, you should bring out the truth and not lies.
Okay, I'm out of time, so Gaurav, make this quick, but you must respond. Go ahead, Gaurav.
All that I want to say is I have the numbers, I can give the details, but since you've been very charitable in giving me only 20 seconds...
Okay, Shama Mohammed, this is not fair. You were allowed to speak at length. Now have the decency to listen to Gaurav Bhatia's response.
Okay. Rahul, I just want to say that we are very, very sure that we'll be forming the government. Even your survey reflects that. the margin would be far bigger than what your survey reflects, and that would be the right time to debate with my friend Shamaji on the 10th when the results are declared. Thank you.
Okay, so, they're saying, yes, problem hai, bahut sari problem hai, but what's the problem? We are winning despite all the problems. That's what giving Gaurav Bhatia. And that's one of the things about this election, that they're facing the kind of anti-incumbency they are. The chief minister's graph going down, and yet despite all the unemployment, the pandemic and the problems, they're still coming out on top. That says something about the BJP at this moment, that says something about the Prime Minister's charisma. It also says something about the weakness of the opposition. But remember, you've got a certain undercurrent and you've got the NDA's machine. Those are the two factors that are playing at the same time in this election. We'll keep tracking what happens from here on. Thank you very much to all our guests.